Alright guys, such a comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. FormaL with a few words for Kenny and his expectations for his turnaround for the upcoming season, joining now the Los Angeles Thieves, but also lots of talk about the snipers and just GAs in general in competitive play this year after Scrap and TJ, among others, gave their thoughts on getting rid of the snipers in competitive play. Nadeshot, the owner of LA Thieves, makes it very clear that he is not happy at all with the way that Scrap is currently talking and believes it's an absolute no-brainer to keep the snipers in as they presently are, with other GAs taking a backseat as well. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Plenty to start with. This is kind of remarkable. I actually do, now having seen it, remember this clip, but it's still wild to think about. I think that Jake Hell points out this guy Dateless actually remembered this. So this is, well, we saw the other day Shotzzy ninjaed Envoy, right? Jumped over the window and then, well, punched him in the back and got the assassination. The same thing happened a couple of years ago in Infinite Warfare when they're playing some Charles. I guess Shotzzy was playing this as well. Shotzzy jumps over backwards, punches him in the back. I actually do like this. I do remember this clip, but yeah, wow, what a throwback that is. Now, speaking of those players, especially OpTic and Thieves, okay, well, Envoy's no longer on Thieves or Gentamates, but, you know, still, the point stands. These are the average ages of the teams over the last few years. Now, I think in general, these ages have gone up over the last few years, just because, well, we've seen not as many new upcoming players as we maybe did a few years ago. So every year the CDL average seems to creep up a little bit higher. Not to say that these guys are old, but, you know, it's very interesting that Dashy now is, apart from Slasher, I think, like the oldest player in the league, which is crazy. I think that Huke and aBeZy, they're both like 26 and they're like the oldest SMGs in the game right now. So yeah, kind of wild how times have changed on that one. Now Ravens, despite the fact that Slasher is the unk of the league at 31, because they've got Lurks and their other guys are pretty young, their average is actually pretty much spot on the average Ravens. The youngest team by quite some way is Surge. They've gone for a very young team, Lunarz, Abe, Gwinn, and then of course Lqgend as well. You know, they're not the best team right now. They're probably the worst team right now, but will that continue? We'll see. Of course, they're going to hope that Lqgend can get everything together in due course. So, but pretty exciting, right? I mean, that's one of the other reasons why it's a risk. They've put together a team that's significantly younger than others. Toronto, 23.7 on average. JoeDeceives, I think he's in for a really good year. Heretics, interesting that FaZe are kind of on the lower end now, I guess you could say. Because, you know, Simp's been around a long time, Drazah's been around a long time, but I still think he's relatively young. I think he's 24, maybe turning 25. Abuzah is not exactly young. I mean, obviously he's a rookie relatively recently, but he, you know, he wasn't a rookie at 18, let's just say, like JoeDeceives pretty much was, or Lurks here at 19 as well. Then 04's kind of young. So FaZe are actually on the, you know, the significantly lower side. It's relatively even between lots of these teams, right? There's not much difference here. Gentamates at 24.3, Falcons at 24.6. The oldest team is actually Cloud9, which is a bit of a surprise. I wouldn't have guessed that going in. But yeah, Afro, obviously he's been around quite a few years now. Beans and then Mack and Vivid. They're all kind of veterans in their own right. They've been around for several years between them. So they're averaging at 25. You know, there's no like crazy unk team this year. And then OpTic and Thieves are actually dead level, both at 24.9, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, I don't know if there's a correlation here between the teams we expect to be better being slightly older. Not necessarily. I think it's difficult to say, but I thought it was interesting to look at regardless. And I guess the other discussion is that every year it appears that the CDL average is creeping up a little bit, less so this year than maybe it did over the last couple of years. So I think it's good to see that we do have some younger rookie players coming in and, well, making the league more interesting and hopefully more sustainable in the longer term. Yeah, Slasher got done kind of dirty there on the graphic. We also did have a Challengers Showcase kickoff that was going on. So we got to see some of the Challengers teams in action. This was, of course, Zuma's team, the Stallions. They played up against Omit. They got a 3-0 victory here. That was pretty impressive. And I think that, yeah, everything's now concluded. And in terms of completed games, you've got Cabal Gaming. They took down the Stallions in the finals. So you had a Seams team, but these guys, they dominated the finals in the ends. They pretty much dominated the tournament. And that was Icon's KV Million Rupa here. So congrats to those guys. You know, wishing the best for all these guys in Challengers this year. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath in Challengers over the first couple of months, really, because there are so many Challengers Cups happening in December. There's all sorts of elites happening in January as well. There's some very notable teams. I mean, the Falcons, they went down. Let's just have a look at the Falcons Academy actually got on here, because I think that Arcetes is playing for that team now, although I may be mistaken. Yeah, Falcons Academy, White, they went down to Omit Brooklyn here. Yeah, Arcetes, Gentle, if that's how you pronounce it, King of Body and Paul X. So yeah, quite the team over there. We'll see how those guys get on as the season transpires. FormaL also gave some thoughts on Raid and Express and some of these other throwback maps. I think it's interesting to hear this point of view, really, because we did see earlier today the map pool as it stands. There's no Express in at all. There is Raid in, but only for search and destroy. That may change in due course if they make the spawns better. Raids could become viable again for hardpoint, probably overload as well. There's a way to make it work, but again, lots of these things are relatively spawn dependent. But FormaL says, look, we've seen Raid a million times, and Express, that's certainly true. We've seen all the gunfights you're ever going to see happen on Raid, even more so for Express. I think FormaL has a point on this one, right? I know that there's a big debate on this. If Raid was a COD map every year, I wouldn't complain about it. It would be nice to have it in the game every year, I think, anyway. It is considered to be kind of the GOAT map. But equally, you know, I've seen Raid played a lot of times. I've played Raid a lot of times. As you know, FormaL's right that we've pretty much seen everything play out on Raid that we are going to some degree, in terms of, you know, gunfights and everything like that. Now, I think my opinion on it is, if I'm watching a series between two teams right at the bottom of the league that I don't really care about and doesn't massively matter, I'd prefer to see them at this time in the game's life cycle play a map that is new, because at least there's something new to watch and consider. If I'm seeing them play Raid, it's difficult to care too much. But do I want Raid in the grand finals of the tournament when the best teams are playing, because it's a fantastic watching experience and playing experience as well, and competitive game, map, combination, whatever, then yes. And look, something like Counter-Strike, I've seen a million times all the same gunfights play out on Mirage or play out on Inferno, but it doesn't make it, as I say, like, for top teams to play, it still works, still absolutely works. So I think I'm happy there being a bit of a mix here, really. Express, maybe FormaL, that could even be more true, because it's only played in search and the map is very symmetrical. There's probably not too much more nuance to happen on Express. It's still a good search and destroy experience, I think. But I understand having some other maps played instead. Maybe it could be considered again in due course. Couple of clips I wanted to share here for you guys before we talk about what Nadeshot had to say, especially FormaL's thoughts on Kenny and the way that things are currently going with Thieves. Of course, their team did not have a good time at the $75,000 Invitational. They beat the Challengers teams that they should beat, but then they lost to both pro teams, winning 0 maps in the process.
I'm actually kind of excited for Kenny's resurgence this year.
Bro, Kenny's gross.
Like, having the year that he had last year, like, and then getting this type of team, like, this is like a dream. This is a dream, bro.
I think it's like the perfect team for him too.
Yeah, definitely. I think he can definitely work with it like, really well. That duo of HyDra and Scrap is just top tier, dude. That duo is just kind of insane. And then you throw aBeZy in the mix too. That's an insane roster.
Major questions on the Thieves roster, of course. I think it's too early to say either way whether this team's going to crash and burn or not. Look, a team with HyDra, aBeZy and Scrap, they should be Sundays, if not grand finals, every single tournament, to be honest. But obviously it is a competitive league. OpTic are looking very good. Where Kenny is going to slot into all that, and you know, what things are they going to agree on in terms of approach, what things are they going to disagree on, that will be an interesting question. FormaL thinks, though, yeah, it's pretty impressive that Kenny got this opportunity, but as we've mentioned a couple of times, he was not exactly the first choice for this opportunity. So yeah, there may be some questions if things do not go to plan for Thieves during the first major. Now, speaking of Thieves, there have been loads of questions, of course, on the sniper. So this was in that Prem tournament that was going on. Here's Pomage with the Tomahawk getting a kill, and he's, you know, running the sniper as well. Here we are in Express with a nice little collateral as well. So yeah, it's all been going on. But the sniper has been, you know, very strong, very viable. That's no surprise to anyone right now, but that has been the case in the past as well. Back in the day in Black Ops 2, people used to run the snipers, the DSR 50, on Express. That was a commonly done thing. And if the other team were using a sniper, even with the dual band thermal scope, then what did you do about it, right? Well, okay, you went to counter it. If they were using the regular DSR with the standard scope or even variable zoom, which some people used, then you could use a smoke grenade. If they then switched to a dual band, to a thermal scope, then you could run cold-blooded or something, right? So, you know, all sorts of options that made it a great game for counterplay. Whereas in this game, the counterplay, at least for the pros nowadays, seems to be, we just ban it, that you have to think about it, right? So TJ said, S&D with snipers is awful. Are we playing Comp COD or Savannah Banana COD, whatever? And we saw the reaction from, well, Scrap replied, and then we saw Shotzzy reply to that and said, entertainment over competitive. And TJ says, just want the aim assist off. I don't care if there's 4 snipers on a team, even more entertainment, right? But look, there's not going to be 4 snipers anyway. I don't know what this argument comes from. You're never going to see that regardless. Even if the sniper is incredibly overpowered, which currently it is strong, maybe it's even overpowered. But is it outrageously good? I wouldn't say necessarily that is true. And even if it is, it's been that way in the past, and we've got away with it perfectly fine, right? I mean, some of the most memorable clips I can remember from a game like Advanced Warfare were with the Moors, with the sniper. FormaL, you know, Facento, among others. Karma, for example, had great sniper highlights in that game. And even back in Vanguard, I think of Sniper High, I think of highlights full stop in Search and Destroy, and I think of that highlight that Clay had at the start of the year with the sniper in hand as well on Tuscan. So Nadeshot says this, you guys don't like snipers in Search because you haven't had to play against them in years. You only hate how broken it can be because you know that what's happening on the map wouldn't happen if they were banned. I understand that, but after a few months, if you were forced to use them, that would be the new norm, and you'd get used to it. Yeah, the game's different, but the product is exponentially more fun for viewers with snipers on the map. It's risk reward for players. It's not a god gun that just carries the map, right? Like, it's not a ray gun. Like, it doesn't just kill you for free. You've got to at least aim, and even then, it doesn't guarantee you a map win. The other guy can pull out a sniper, you can find a way to counter it. You know, that's like I say, in Counter-Strike, if you've got no money for smokes or whatever, and you know the other team's got an AWP, you've got to think, you've got to engage the brain and think, okay, how are we going to approach this? Which site is he going to play at? Are we going to use a little like fake over towards A to make the sniper rotate off B? Then we're going to bang out the B bomb site and get the bomb down, right? And then the sniper's going to be useless on the retake. You know, it's actually a tactical game at that point. There's a level of strategy in play to deal with the sniper on the other team. You know, maybe you call a timeout and you say, okay, are we going to bring our own sniper out to counter this guy, or what are we going to do? Yes, aim assist off the snipers adds even more skill, but even with it, I don't think it's totally game breaking. You're not seeing 4 a team, and you know the pros are like, oh well, we've got 8 M15s on the map, but actually no, we should keep it in or whatever. And while most pros were like, okay, 8 weapons on the map, they're all the same, we should GA it. Apparently there's a problem when there's like 2 snipers on the map, right? So Nadeshot says, we always use snipers in all the gears at COD, you guys can do it as well. So I think Nadeshot makes a very fair point here. That, yeah, the pros that we have nowadays seem to be different, but it's not like the snipers are stronger now than they used to be. I think that's the point. You go back to BO2 or something, the snipers are extremely strong. Black Ops 3, I mean, they didn't have aim assist in that game, but we always use the snipers. And in Advanced Warfare, they did have aim assist, and yeah, you were flying through the sky. Ghosts, the sniper was very much so used as well, and it was, you know, you could counter it with a smoke and incognito if you were going to use the thermal, but, you know, they would use the sniper as well. And Ghost is considered the best search and destroy game we've probably ever had, and snipers were definitely not banned in that game. So Nadeshot's making his point very clear. We know Hex's opinion on topics like this as well. The CDL is never going to ban them officially, and plenty of teams probably still want them in. So I think we've got a good chance of that still happening this year, but intrigue to your thoughts in the comments below. Just one final thing, if you want to watch another video, I thought this is kind of funny. We saw this went out. They played basically Magnus Carlsen and Kenny. I think we knew this had happened, but they played a match in the World Cup back in August, whenever it was, July, and they finally made the video public. So yeah, I've actually not got around to watching it yet, but I saw it and I thought that this would probably be pretty funny. So yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
This guy.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Bang!
Oh my god, you actually
Story mode, Doug!
You actually can't fuck with the guy.
It's good, but like.
Look at him looking at his girl. I got you, babe. After this map. Come
Oh
on.
my god. Did he just give a fist bump?
He just looked over at his girl. That's like probably a rocket next to him.
Oh my god.
This guy has an insane lineup, by the way, Zen. Go on.
I've heard.
This guy's starting 5 is very. It's actually.
They're just